Okay, so now we're going to do secant. So we just a few moments ago, well, the last video anyway, probably maybe not a few minutes ago, did cosecant. So let's think about secant for a second. That's the reciprocal of cosine. So if you can graph a cosine, you can graph a secant. So let's just think some things about the cosine. Amplitude, tops out at 1, bottoms out at -1, period. All the way around the circle, so 2 pi. Alright, but we're not going to put in the secant like amplitude or period yet. Well, we'll say the period is 2 pi. Okay, so I'm going to go in and grab some highlighters. I know that the cosine is going to top out at 1, bottom out at -1. And I know it goes from 0 to 2 pi. Now I got to think, cosine, cosine, cosine. Does it start high, medium, or low? It starts high. So I'm going to grab a red. I like to just use red as a starting so I don't lose it. So the red, it starts here because cosine over at 0 radians, cosine is the x value, and so the x value there is 1. Okay, so 1, and then it goes down and it bottoms out at pi, but it gets back up to here at 2 pi. So let's do those red dots. Then it bottoms out halfway between. So halfway between those would be at pi. And then it crosses the middle, just halfway between all the things. So I love these because it's just always halfway. If you can find half of stuff, you'll be fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab yellow. It goes zoom. The reason I'm doing this in yellow is because everything here is just the scaffolding. It's like the skeleton before you put the skin on. So in order to graph a secant, I just need to know what does the cosine look like. Okay, now remember a secant is the reciprocal, so the reciprocal, we want to look for all the zeros because the reciprocal of a 0 is undefined, which means there's an asymptote there. So I think I'm just going to have asymptotes at all the like odd pi over 2s. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Oh, this one's a little crooked, but it's good enough. Okay. Now I'm going to put my actual graph in purple, and just like the cosecant, since it's a reciprocal function, I'm really just drawing parabolas off the maxes and mins of my cosine. So you just have to remember cosine and secant go together, sine and cosecant go together. Okay, and so because it goes up forever and down forever, there is no amplitude. I could do the range if I wanted, just as I could on the cosecant. So the range would be -infinity to -1, inclusive, union 1 to infinity. And then your domain would be like all reals except the odd pi over 2s. Okay, so let's try, okay, this is secant 1/2 theta. So that 1/2, so if it's helpful, I'm going to say a is 1, that number up front. So it's not getting any taller or shorter. But that 1/2, your b is 1/2. So that means the period is now going to be 4 pi. If you're like, oh, how come? Because the mother function was 2 pi, and then I divided by that 1/2. Well, 2 divided by 1/2, that makes 4. That would happen 4 times, so 4 pi's. Okay, so I'm going to go in. Now, really what I'm going to graph first in yellow is the cosine of 1/2 theta. So I go in and I put in my little top and bottom. The amplitude of the actual cosine would be 1. Okay, I know that cosines start high. So I'm going to grab my red and put that in there. So it starts here Now, it would get back at 4 pi. Ugh, that's like way the heck out here. But I know that it's going to bottom out halfway between 0 and 4 pi. So it's going to bottom out at the 2 pi, and that I can fit in here. So it's going to bottom out at 2 pi and negative 2 pi. And that means it's going to cross halfway in the middle. So halfway is right here, right there. Okay, I should have drawn that in yellow. I always forget. Okay, so that's just my bones. So that's the cosine. Maybe I'll trace it. Okay, so that said, I now go in and I found all my zeros. The reciprocal of 0 is going to be undefined. So I've got an asymptote here, an asymptote here. So like my odd pi's. And then I grab my purple and I just graph. There it is. So these, that one should have gone higher. Let's see if I can. Oh, that goes behind my head, so you can't really see. I'm gonna grab this one and see, can I move that up a little bit? There you go. And that is how you graph a secant.